Another day, another announcement from Anbernic. Anbernic recently revealed the RG28XX, which is a very interesting device. It has a very familiar chipset, something we've experienced in quite a few of their other devices. This device seemingly shares the same exact H700 ARM Cortex-A53 CPU and the same MAUI, I think, G31 MP2 GPU. So it's really almost exactly the same in terms of raw potential horsepower. What really separates this handheld from the rest is just its sheer size and pocketability. The handheld comes in a nice decent set of colors: beige white, black transparent, gray and orange. I'm quite partial to the transparent black, but what irks me the most is I couldn't find any information on a price. They posted an article talking about the device. Multiple other contacts on YouTube don't have any idea what the potential price is. It's just seemingly a strange device, in my opinion, to be announced, especially because they just announced and released the 2024 model of the Anbernic RG28XX, which also has the same processor as the Plus version. So it just kind of is muddling the waters, really. Because if people really just wanted a small portable emulation handheld, why would they buy either the new 2024 edition of the 35XX or the now older but same performance old Plus model? It just sort of doesn't make a lot of sense. It's really interesting because all these devices are marketed in very similar ways for their portability, for their just small compact form factors, but seemingly doesn't really matter how well this thing performs, really, because I feel like we've reached a point where these devices are plenty powerful enough to play most of what we could possibly want, and at this size or at this price, it's just you won't really be able to find anything to be performing that much better. The same processor was able to play PSP, DS, Super Nintendo, N64 a little bit, and all sorts of other consoles, of course all the 8 and 16-bit stuff, but it just seems baffling for them to include this processor again in another device, seemingly more budget-oriented, just judging by the sheer size of the device. The device has a 2.8-inch display, which means for the whole rest of the device, it can't be all that large. From images I found online, it seemingly is about just a skosh smaller than the old Anbernic RG28M, which originally released all the way back in 2020. This device also had a 2.8-inch screen, had very similar controls, just with the caveat that this one includes an analog stick, which the new Anbernic RG28XX does not include, which is a little disappointing, especially considering the amount of performance this thing had. It could be a perfect little PSP machine. If it had the analog stick from the old 280M, it would have been a pretty perfect device. If I had to speculate on the price, it would have to be somewhere between maybe $60 to $80, judging by where the current pricing of the RG28M currently is, which this device is most similar to. But because of the sheer performance this thing has at its disposal, puts it very similar to a lot of the newer devices, like the 2024 model RG35XX. I really like the more landscape form factor though. For me, I find that a lot more comfortable to play with than the sort of DMG style that they've been going with for a lot of their more sort of 2D designed handhelds. For how my hands are, I just find having that landscape form factor to just be generally more comfortable. So this might be the device to pick up for those people who feel the same way. Ideally, I would like to see this go for less than $50. That would be a killer price for a device that has that level of performance. It could be the perfect little device just to throw into your backpack, and hopefully the battery will last long enough for whenever you decide to play with it. I used to do that with an old BitBoy that I had. If you guys even remember BitBoys, they were these tiny little handhelds that would fit in the palm of your hand. And I would just throw it into my bag, and whenever I was bored, I would just pull it out and start playing on it. Just because it's more entertaining than playing on a phone game. And just would always have a battery charge. It's how I beat the original Legend of Zelda, because I just, one, didn't really want to play it on an original NES, and it was always a game that I never really wanted to sit down and play dedicatedly. So I just really sort of picked it up whenever I was bored. And the BitBoy back in the day was sort of the perfect solution. And I feel like this device could supplant that. You know, this device is small enough to just go into my chest pocket in a jacket or something like that, or slide into one of the pockets of a pair of cargo shorts. And if it's cheap enough, it could be a pretty good entry point for gamers and people who are interested into getting into emulation. It could be the perfect spot for them to jump into, something low price so they don't have to commit, while still affording them a pretty nice gaming experience overall. My biggest concern about this device is the price and how it's really positioned. It's not particularly clear on how this is going to fit in terms of Anbernic's product stack, given all their recent and rapid announcements of all their other products. I talk about this every time Anbernic announces the new device, but Jesus Christ, just slow down. I straight up feel like they don't go a single month between announcements. It was quite literally like a week or two ago when I was talking about the new revisions of other handhelds that they announced, using all the same chipset. My theory is that they probably got like a giant fucking deal or a pallet of these chips, and they just like, well, let's just make a bunch of handhelds using these chips. And now they're all going to be priced somewhere around the same price point, making it annoying for consumers to decide which one would be best for them, especially because some of them are drastically different in comparison to each other. Some people might end up buying this device thinking it's just like the Anbernic RG28XX. While it's visually different, but it uses the same chipset, offers the same performance, and the same compatibility with games. But it doesn't have the extra analog sticks that would afford you the ability to comfortably play PS1, PSP, and N64 games. The screen is too small to comfortably play Nintendo DS games unless the emulators they use just sort of switch between the two screens, which I have seen before and they have done on their other handhelds. But this could be running a completely different operating system or use a completely different version of the Nintendo DS emulator. It's one of the annoying parts about Anbernic is the not really consistent level of quality between their devices. Some of their devices are really good and some are just hot garbage. Sometimes it's just down to batch variancy. I originally had an Anbernic RG351MP that just sort of had a fucking awful D-pad, so I had to return it and I got a new one back, and it was one of the best D-pads I ever used. It's that inconsistency that makes me concerned for something like this. If you're expected to pay close to what the other devices cost, it's going to be kind of a hard pill to swallow for how compromised in general the experience would be in comparison to the other devices that have the exact same chipset. Circling back to what I was talking about the price, I just hope this device is priced appropriately to reflect the more compromised experience due to its form factor. Just because it has the same chipset doesn't mean it should be priced the same way. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys want to buy this kind of a device? Are you interested in something like this? Are you just sick and tired of what Anbernic's doing? I would love to hear what you guys think down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All of the social media garbage down below. And last but not least, why don't you go watch some of my other videos? I talked about this again in the Anbernic RG35XX 2024 edition. I'll leave that link down below if you're interested. And an affiliate link if you want to pre-order this device, I guess. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.